Welcome back to Flash Tracks Woodworking. In the last episode we talked about replacing these paper signs with some wooden signs for some screwdriver holders on the pegboard. Today's episode is maybe a little less frivolous. We'll be talking about making some holders for some router bits for the CNC machine. The holder that you see here on the left is simply a block of wood with 16 1/4-inch holes in it, which has now been relegated to holding piloted bits and stored near the hand router. The next generation, Generation 2, was this holder, but it's now full of bits, and I've acquired some bits since then that I want to incorporate into a similar holder, but using some of the lessons I learned in making and using this holder. One of the issues we're going to encounter is bits with drastically different features, including diameters and also overall length, where we don't want to be reaching up and over the longer bits to get to the smaller ones. We'll try to figure out a way to make that access a little easier.
I'll be setting up the table saw and the sled to make the base of the two-piece stack. I'll rip a spare piece of 2x10 to establish a straight and true edge. Then I'll turn the piece 90 degrees and cross-cut with the sled. Next, I'll put away the sled and add a fence to make the final cross-cut for length and a final rip for the final width. I'm done with the table saw for now. I'll get out the orbital sander and smooth the top and bottom face of the base block. I'll use the CNC machine to form a pocket in the base in order to receive the top part of the tool holder. I designed the base with only a 1/4 inch to spare around the perimeter of the top piece. This did not leave me much room for clamping.
The tool holder base is now completed, including a pocketed area here on the base, which will receive another top piece. Right now it's mainly a rectangular block with some fairly sharp corners, and I want to round those off a bit. So I've set up the router table. I'll be using this 1/8 inch round over bit to round most of the outside corners. I'll be using a 1/4 inch radius ball nose bit to add a groove all the way around the outside of the block.
To get the thickness I wanted for the new holder, I cut out a piece of oak from a scrap oak board to fit on top of that base that I had made earlier. I've laid out and pre-drilled 4 positions on the base part of the assembly. I'll attach that base to the top with 4 screws. This will give me a softer base for the router bits to sit in and give me a harder top to resist damage from the bits themselves as they come down from the top. Next, I'll use 2 software programs to help me complete the design. First, I'll use VCard Desktop to set up the laser work. I'll do the laser work first while the block is still free of dust that it's going to gather once we start the drilling operations. Once the laser work is done, I'll return to VCarve and also consult a sketch and an Excel spreadsheet that will help me in the calculation of the 26 tool paths I need to complete both the clearing and the drilling operations. Here's a quick time lapse of the clearing operation with the 1/4 inch spiral upcut bit, including zeroing, looking at the checklist, and then sequentially doing all the clearing I can with that 1/4 inch bit. I'll go as deep as I can without messing up the bottom profiles for the bits, and I'll also leave a 1/100th clearance for the shank of these 1/4 inch bits. Here's another time lapse where I am successively and apparently frantically unclamping the prior bit from the chuck, clamping in the next bit, zeroing on the surface or using the touch plate, then drilling from the bottom of the clear hole an amount equal to the cutting length, and then repeating this process a dozen times to form all of the final holes for the router bits.
With the laser work and the routing complete, I'll be adding a couple of coats of this Danish oil, and that Danish oil will help to bring out the grain a bit and give it a little more luster than it did as raw wood. So we'll give that a second coat. After the final coat of Danish oil, it's time to send the router bits to their homes. You can see them taking up positions in 3 rows and 6 columns. If we hold up the filled block, you can see that we have indeed gotten a rather level playing field here on the top of the block, so that when we're reaching up and over, let's say, this longer 1mm ball nose end mill, we're not bumping into it as we were attempting to access some of the shorter end mills. Because of that longer bit being accommodated, we got some extra depth here, which led to this sort of a stacked design, if you will. But I think it looks aesthetically fairly pleasing. So all in all, I think the project came out pretty well. I didn't really discuss how I ended up with this set of 16 end mills. If you'd like to see something about that, please leave a comment below. If there's enough interest, I'll put together a video on how I came up with this set. I'll also leave descriptions down below for each of these 16, including their model numbers. So that pretty much wraps up the video. I'll leave a couple of links here on the side. It'll either be that follow-up video or it'll be a YouTube recommended video and my latest upload. With that, thanks for watching Flash Tracks Woodworking. Subscribe and thumbs up if you want to see more like this. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.